But there are so many other dimensions to our health that are more important than the food we eat.
An easy way to think about your diet is when you go to the grocery store, stay on the outside of the aisles.
You are listening to EMS with your hosts, Erik Axene and Matt Ball.
Good thing about strength, you don't have any zipper to worry about.
That's why I went into medicine.
What do you want to do for a living? I just want a job that I don't require a zipper on my pants.
I want a clothes with no zipper.
And I want to feel like I'm wearing my pajamas all day.
So what are we talking about today, Matt?
Well, we're talking about intake, the continuation of our Thrive series, health and wellness.
Yeah.
Not just really for first responders, but for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Health and wellness is certainly an important factor, and as a physician and as a nurse and a firefighter, you know, health and wellness is something that we should take seriously. It's kind of hard to listen to a doctor when he walks in and he weighs 400 pounds and he's 200 pounds overweight.
I oftentimes tell people, like, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
But you know what, Matt, a year ago, I was almost 300 pounds, 290 pounds.
And you're how tall? Just so everybody...
About 6'1" or so.
Yeah, you're a big guy.
And, I played football. I work out. I am a bigger guy. I'm a mesomorph. It's my body type. Anyway, so I'm a bigger guy. And I thought when people would tell me that I was obese, that I was like, oh, come on, NFL athletes are obese.
Yeah.
And I would rationalize it. But then I realized I'm not an NFL athlete. And anyway, at 290 pounds, I used to say that I can't run because of my knees, which was true.
Right.
But it really wasn't my knees.
Right.
It was my weight. So
affecting your knees.
Yeah. And so now I jog after I've lost 50 pounds.
Yeah.
50 pounds is a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight.
And I've got some more to lose still. So, but I guess my point is with obesity, it's the definition like we talked about before we recorded here was based on BMI.
Right.
And that's a good general thing for most body types is to try to get down to your, BMI, around 20 or so.
And just so everybody understands, if they're not familiar, BMI is body mass index. It's basically a calculation of your height and your weight, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't, because I'm still obese right now.
Per that scale. Yeah, like we were saying, that's a little subjective because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not as tall as you. I'm only about 5'5". And I think my BMI is, or my ideal body weight is no more than like 135 pounds.
You can't get there. Cut your legs off, maybe.
Yeah, I've been down to like 135. But that's really thin for me. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it, like we were talking about, you're muscular. Yep. I lift weights. I have to have a certain amount of strength, to be a firefighter. So I think, based on your muscle over fat, if you have some muscle on you, your BMI is going to be higher. So it's a little subjective.
And I think there was like a disconnect in my mind with my weight problem and my intake. I rationalized this, like I'm just a bigger guy. I'm working out and I was able to mountain bike with the best of them, and I didn't slow me down, and I would muscle through, and I was carrying all this extra weight. But the bottom line for intake, and what we're talking about today, is that the reason I had gained all that weight, it doesn't come on magically.
Right.
I had been eating more than I had been burning, and it accumulated in my fat deposition in my body. And there are two types of fat depositions in the body: subcutaneous fat, the type of fat under your skin that you can feel, and then there's mesenteric fat, which is the core. It's inside of your abdominal cavity around your organs, which is a much more dangerous and unhealthy fat. None of them are necessarily good if you have too much of it, but. And we need some fat for insulation and thermoregulation, and it's good to have some stored energy.
Yep.
Right. It's a survival mechanism for our body.
Yeah.
The problem in America is that we have so much food and drive-throughs. We don't have to walk anywhere. We have now, what percent? We talked about this before. 42% of Americans are obese.
Yeah.
And BMI isn't the most accurate way, but it's a good way. but the point is, look at yourself. I mean, are you carrying around too much weight?
Yeah, you can tell if you have
Yeah.
more muscle than fat.
Right.
So if you're a bodybuilder, and you're going into, like my daughter's boyfriend, he's a firefighter, and he is a bodybuilder, and he's a big guy. He's probably only 5'8", and I bet he's, I don't know, 220 pounds, but he's big. I mean, he's
Yeah.
obviously got more muscle than fat.
Yeah.
But you can, when you're
Yeah.
carrying around 50 pounds of fat around your
yeah.
stomach.
And when you're carrying around even an unnatural amount of muscle mass, whether you're doing steroids or
Right.
you're juicing with testosterone or
Right.
whatever it might be, your body can't handle. It's not meant to handle that kind of extra burden and muscle mass.
Joints and
The joints. I mean, talk to Schwarzenegger. You talk to bodybuilders.
Yeah.
You
What's
know,
Ronnie Coleman?
Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, down here in Arlington.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if that's directly related to. I would imagine that has to do with the fact that he was squatting 800 pounds
True,
or whatever
true.
it was, but that's
Yeah.
why his back and his joints are shot.
But those large, I guess the exaggerated muscle mass or fat mass is hard on the heart.
Yeah.
And that's what kills people. More people die of cardiovascular disease than cancer and car accidents combined.
Yeah.
So cardiovascular disease is what kills Americans, what kills people, especially with the American diet.
Yeah.
So by stressing our body with obesity or whatever it is, the heart's what takes the hit. And so the intake, and back to intake, so that's the fuel that we use to function, right?
Yeah, and it's more than, it's anything that is put into your body, put onto or into your body. So it's not just necessarily
Not just food. It's what you drink, it's what you eat, it's what you listen to, it's what you watch,
Yep.
it's what you
Put
breathe.
on your skin,
what you put in your
largest
skin.
organ in the body.
Yep. There are a lot of complicated intake issues that can affect your longevity.
Yeah.
And the focus is on intake.
Yeah.
And I would say, too, that the focus is on the one aspect of intake, on food intake, which is just a part of intake. There's more of a focus on that than I think any other dimension of health and wellness is what you eat.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about the carnivore diet, the plant-based diet, keto, Mediterranean, you fill in the blank. There are even like kangatarians out there that only eat kangaroo meat. I mean, they're seriously.
Okay.
I know, it's true. I mean, it's like there's a lot of weird eating styles out there. A lot of people that think they have found, and I hate to be cynical about it, but honestly, a lot of these things are just moneymakers. It's just like, okay, what's the next fad diet, right?
Right.
So we wanted to kind of boil it down into the low-hanging fruit on this very, very popular way of getting more healthy. If this is the most popular way, if you want to get more healthy, most people like change what they eat, right?
Right.
Or exercise, maybe. It might be number two, but this is definitely number one. And then through the Thrive acronym we've gone through, I would say that, some of the other letters are more important and they're talked about less.
Sure.
So there's definitely a great health message that you and I have here. But intake, definitely probably the most popular one to talk about.
For sure.
But we're not going to get into the details on, like, I'm not going to tell people do the bolitarian diet
Right.
that we've developed
The
through
Axene-tarian.
years of research.
Yeah, right.
If you look at all the literature, in medical literature, anything within the health and wellness industry, there is just a robust amount of data showing how vegetables are healthy. And eating more vegetables are healthy. And I think we all know that. A lot of, I hate to insult people who are doing the carnivore diet, but I was just having a little debate with a firefighter who's doing the carnivore diet. And there's just no evidence out there. Well, you got to be careful what you read, but when you compare the evidence for vegetables and the health of the micronutrients they give our body and the fiber and all that stuff, and compare it to the literature out there that would say that animal products are more healthy, to me it's a no-brainer. I prefer a steak
Yeah.
over broccoli. I mean, I really do.
Yeah.
But if you want to eat healthy, I mean, that would be, whether it's the Mediterranean diet, a plant-based diet, a whole kind of foods diet, natural diet, that to me, if you're going to choose something, the benefits you get from eating foods from plants is the healthiest way to eat. It's not all perfect. Pesticides. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could hurt yourself with foods.
Right.
But overall, I think the medical literature is really clear.
And I think there's a lot of people that are, they're confused. They don't do the deep dive into how to have a healthy diet. They don't have the money to spend on, expensive organic food. They can't hire a nutritionist or, whatever. I think one of the things that I've always heard is an easy way to think about your diet is when you go to the grocery store, stay on the outside of the aisles. If you do the bulk of your shopping on the outside of the aisles, typically that's where you're going to find your fruits, your vegetables, your meats, and your dairy, right? All the processed food, the food that's high in sugar content and all that is on the aisles, is down the aisles for the most part, right? And so if you just simply started with saying, okay, I'm going to do the bulk of my grocery shopping on the outskirts of the aisles and buy mainly real food, not processed cereals and chips and that kind of stuff. That's a great start. It's a great place to start and then kind of work from there, right?
I'm glad you said that because that's, I think, even lower hanging fruit than choosing vegetables.
Right.
Because if you chose to eat the carnivore diet, for example, I know my friend I was talking to felt great. He felt never felt better.
Lost some weight.
He did.
Energetic.
Lost weight, His cholesterol was off the charts. Like, it didn't even register. It was just really high.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, I believe that diet is more healthy than a diet of fast food and processed foods.
For sure.
Sodas with all the high fructose corn syrup, and refined sugars.
Yep.
What he was eating with that carnivore diet will probably, I believe anyway, be more healthy than a processed food diet with none of that stuff in it. Even if you ate vegan and ate Oreos and Diet Coke and vegan crackers,
tater tots and French fries and potato chips, which are all vegan.
Right.
Not healthy.
That's
for you.
not healthy.
No.
Now, plant-based is different than vegan.
Yeah.
Plant-based, there's no oils, there's no refined sugar or flour.
Right.
You are literally eating just plants.
Yeah.
And it can be really good. It can be.
And there's a lot of confusing thing out there. A good friend of ours, both know that I work with, he has been a very strict vegan for years, very healthy. He read the Engine 2 diet book and really took that to heart. He was heavy, and his health has improved tremendously by living this lifestyle, this vegan lifestyle. But one of the things that he said is that you got to be careful because now, back to your point of it's all about money for these companies, is that you can go down, especially in the frozen food aisle, right? You can go down and buy all these things that say that they're vegan, like vegan burgers or vegan whatever it is, but they're full of chemicals. It's not real food. It's chemical food. So, you might be eating, quote unquote, something that's vegan, but you're pumping a ton of bad chemicals in your body that are not good for you in other ways. I think a lot of people base their health, like you said at the beginning, off of how they look. It's off aesthetics, right? And so they think, well, I'm thin, I'm healthy. Well, I know a lot of thin, fat people, if you know what I mean. They're skinny on the outside, but there are, I should probably say, some thin, unhealthy people.
Yeah.
They're very thin. They aesthetically look good, but they're not healthy on the inside, like you talked about. Their arteries are clogged with all this fat buildup and all this kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that causes you to have heart attacks and cardiovascular disease and things of that nature.
Well, I think you bring up another good point. So if you were to ask me, the most healthy way to eat is going to be a diet predominantly with vegetables. Right. If you wanted to pick a diet, try to eat. If you wanted to pick the best optimal fuel, I really believe it's a plant-based diet. Okay, I don't live that way. Right. It's very difficult, but a Mediterranean diet's pretty good too.
Yeah, it's a good balance.
It's a good goal to shoot for, and that's my goal right now. Eventually, maybe plant-based.
Which is what? What is the Mediterranean diet?
A Mediterranean diet would be a diet with a ton of vegetables, fruits and vegetables, grains, whole grains. And within the traditional Mediterranean diet, you might have a lot of olive oil and a lot of foods that even meat. They eat meat, but instead of it being a course on your plate, it's a flavor. in your plate. You know, they don't eat a lot of meat, but they do have meat, fish, and all types of meat. But the main staple of a Mediterranean diet would be vegetables, fruits and vegetables, and whole grains.
Yeah.
And it's a great diet. It's a great diet. But you know, one thing you said that I think, you know, again, we're trying to stick with the low-hanging fruit here, right? Like if you can, like you said, not eat the processed foods, stick to the outskirts stick to the walls, not the aisles, right?
Yep.
I love it that you said that perfectly. And then we also talked about eating more plants. It was my birthday recently, and guess what I ate? Made steak. That's what I wanted, and it was good. Anyway, but the other thing you mentioned, though, that I think we should focus on a little bit here is another low-hanging fruit, and that's the ingredients list. Is if you're looking at an ingredients list that's a mile long with a bunch of words you can't pronounce, looks more like a chemistry lab than a food.
Yeah.
Right. You're eating chemicals. Now, the FDA has thousands of chemicals in our food supply that we know cause cancer.
Yes.
Now,
that are banned in a lot of other countries.
Banned in a lot of countries. That's right. And we have them in our food supply. And the FDA has allowed it. They've made this list of, they call them, this list of food additives they call generally regarded as safe. GRAS, the GRAS list, or whatever you want to call it. That's what I call it. And I think it's just awful that we allow this stuff, and we're feeding it to our kids.
Yep.
And these highly processed foods with all these chemicals in it are made to be hyper palatable. They're made to trigger the pleasure center in your brain, the mesolimbic system, the dopamine, right? You get a dopamine hit when you go to McDonald's and get that whatever you want to eat.
Yeah.
Those processed foods are not good for you.
Yeah.
They are not. You've seen the videos.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure where the Happy Meal is like 30 years old.
Why do they call it a Happy Meal? I mean, think about it. You're literally addicting your children to dopamine at a young age. Oh, let's go to McDonald's, get your hamburger, your chicken nuggets. You know, they get that small dopamine hit that carries off into adulthood.
And I am not here to say that fast food is evil, because I enjoy a burger like anybody.
Right.
I'll go just the other day when I took my son to the airport. We went to McDonald's for a quick breakfast on our way to the airport.
Because that's your favorite.
It is. I love a McDonald's breakfast, but I don't have it every day.
Right. Exactly. Balance. Balance is huge.
But you know, they had a movie that came out not too long ago about how this guy only ate McDonald's and he almost killed himself.
Yeah, Supersize Me.
Well, that was such a farce.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know if you.
How so?
Well, let me tell you about a subsequent movie that was made. And
Okay.
I can't remember the title of it. I should have researched it. I'm just thinking of it now. But as another gentleman that ate only fast food and monitored all of his vitals and everything, and he only ate fast food, and he got a lot healthier.
But didn't he, because we talked about this before, he made better choices.
Exactly. See, that's my point.
You're right.
You make good choices. If I go to McDonald's and get a large fry and supersize my Coke.
2 Big Macs.
Yeah, because that's what I might want to eat.
Yeah, right.
If I do what my mesolimbic system tells me, I'm thinking with my amygdala. The amygdala is a pleasure seeker. It's a survival seeker. We want what we want, and it's an animal instinct kind of a thing.
Right.
Our prefrontal cortex thinks, well, maybe that's not a good choice because I just had that for lunch. Having it for dinner again might not be a good idea.
Right.
When we use our prefrontal cortex to make good decisions, and so we go to Wendy's and get a baked potato, and instead of a soda, we get the unsweetened iced tea, and instead of fries, we get the add-ons for the baked potato, and they've got fruit cups. I mean, they've got healthy options. But who goes to Wendy's for fruit cups? I mean, you go to Wendy's for fries and a Frosty and a big burger, right?
Amen.
That's what I want. Yeah. But I guess my point though is, and I don't recommend a diet of only fast food because that's what a difficult environment to make good choices.
Yeah, you can alter data however you want to alter it and make it look bad based on your choices.
But that's what it is. It's choices. We make thousands of choices every day, and a lot of them have to do with intake.
Yeah.
And specifically what we're focused on right now is food. As you make decisions for the fuel you put in your body, use your prefrontal cortex and be smart about it. hey, it's my birthday, so I know I'm going to have a big meal tonight. So I'm going to eat a lighter breakfast and a lighter lunch and try to be healthy because I know I'm going to have a big steak. And
Exactly.
potato.
Like tonight, it's my daughter's birthday. So we know that they're going to come over and we're probably
It's my birthday tomorrow, right?
I do know that.
Okay, yeah. But we celebrated it earlier. But
Well, I didn't know you celebrated it already, but yeah. Well, her birthday's tomorrow. It's the same day. Yeah.
Oh, tomorrow's hers.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Oh,
We're
it's the same
celebrating
day.
tonight. It's
Oh,
the
I
30th.
I was thinking, oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. It's
yeah.
oh gosh.
Yeah. So she turns 21.
You got it. You know what I mean.
And so we're probably gonna do pizza or something. We had talked about maybe doing pizza.
I love a good pizza.
And it's so much about balance. Like if you want to be super strict, be super strict. We could go so in depth. I mean, this could be hours long that we could talk about this. One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking though is that, you think about the government or you think about big pharma, right?
Yeah.
And all of this is based around money. The government tells you it's okay to eat these things. Then you become fat. Then you go to the hospital and they stick you on all these medications, right? They don't want to cure your disease. They want you to be on blood pressure medications and high cholesterol medications for the rest of your life because they make money on that.
And that is, by the way, not the way they train me.
I would, yeah.
That's not medicine.
But I mean, would you agree with that?
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely agree with that.
Okay.
Doctors today, my colleagues out there, are managing diseases, chronic diseases, by increasing the medications to help their patients, right?
Yeah.
Now it's not the doctor's fault.
I was going to say, they're good intentioned.
The patient's making bad choices.
Right.
We are hook, line, and sinker for the American diet.
Yes.
And we want to live and we want to do whatever the heck we want. And I don't care what the consequences are. Doc, fix me.
Yeah.
And so we increase the insulin or we increase the blood pressure meds.
Yep.
The cure for these problems is not in a pill. The cure for these problems are in our choices.
Amen. Yep.
And a lot of people think that their destiny is their DNA, their genetics. Well, my genetics are that. Screw that. That's not true.
Well, I think there's a genetic component to it.
There's a genetical
component.
No, there is a genetic component.
For sure.
But that's a farce, though. That's a people blaming it on something else.
100%.
I think, to me, the choices we make, our behavior is a much bigger component to our health and wellness than whatever DNA you have.
Right.
Hey, my grandparents lived to be 105, so I'm going to live to be 105 too. Right. Well, you may have that predisposition to maybe have a longer life because you've got the genetics, of longevity.
Right.
But
your grandma
we can't
and grandpa,
hang our hat on that.
Yeah, your grandma and grandpa probably were eating real food too. They were probably farmers eating real food.
Yep.
Even if they were eating a lot of meat and beef, it was probably farm-raised chicken, beef, pork, whatever. They weren't eating McDonald's all the time.
No.
So we're in a different generation than
Totally different.
our parents were.
And, one thing I'll add to what we're talking about is it's not just the food we choose, the intake we choose. It's not just the fuel we're putting into our body, which is really important.
Right.
But we're not going to get into the details of it now, but there are so many other dimensions to our health that are more important than the food we eat.
Yeah.
The food we eat's big, but there are other factors that actually affect how we make choices. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with mental, we're going to talk, obviously you can watch the podcast on vitality. Mm-hmm. If you're not in a good spot and you're part of that 1 out of 4 Americans who have mental health disease, and you're dealing with anxiety and depression, that makes it even harder to make a good choice when you go home after work and you're looking in the refrigerator for what you want to eat. You're going to be drawn to that dopamine hit.
Yep.
That's the amygdala talking.
Yep.
And it's really hard to listen to the prefrontal cortex when your brain is bathed in cortisol from depression or anxiety or PTSD. You fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. That is really a real struggle.
Yeah.
Sleep, we talk about that, is another factor. If you're sleep deprived, you're just setting yourself up for failure for making bad choices.
Yep.
Again, the choices we make in what we eat are huge. And if you're on a treadmill going in the opposite direction because of your lifestyle, it's not going to end well.
Not going to be good.
No. So that it's a complicated thing, but the purpose of us going through the acronym is to talk about each one individually. Mm-hmm. So as far as intake goes, the food we put in our body, we don't have much time left, but let's talk briefly about some of the health benefits of eating well.
Yeah.
It really hits everything.
Yeah.
It's if you're eating well, there's a gut-brain connection that's not talked about enough. Our GI system is our biggest immune organ.
Yep.
It's huge. It literally is huge, and it's really has a huge impact. And we're learning more in medicine about the connection between our brain and what we eat, our gut. And by eating a real, the American diet. I mean, everybody eats differently, but if you're eating a lot of processed foods and you're not eating those natural foods with the micronutrients that we need,
Yep.
Your gut biome, your the bacteria that live in you, and we talked about this before. You're actually less than half human.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the cells on your body are non-human cells.
Mm-hmm.
You have fewer human cells on your body than you have non-human cells. That's weird.
Yeah.
But it's true.
I'm an alien. I'm half alien.
Isn't that weird to think about that?
It is. Yeah.
So, the whole adage, you are what you eat, I mean, it really true, because what we eat affects that biome of bacteria that outnumber our human cells.
Right.
It has an enormous effect on our body, has an enormous effect on all the dimensions of health. Whether we're talking about sleep or mental illness, specifically with mental illness, if you eat the American diet, you're going to proliferate a certain kind of a real hardy bacteria that is known to secrete a specific toxin associated with mental illness. I'm not kidding. I mean, the data's out there.
Yeah.
This is really a big deal. And whether we're talking about sleep, we're talking about your not just the hours of sleep, but your
quality of
quality
sleep.
of life.
Yeah.
Your when you sit alone and you're going to sleep at night, are you happy?
Yeah.
Are you content with your life?
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
We all want to feel happy and thrive with
Sure.
our lives. How do you honestly feel?
Yeah.
Our food has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
So I think that this intake thing is huge. The last thing, if you want to bring anything up, whether we're talking about what we put on our skin, what we breathe, what we hear, what we see,
watch,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that one thing I would like to say before we close this one out here in a few minutes is the brain, and it ties into vitality. But when we think about things, when we're watching things and hearing things, and what we choose to engage in and put into our brain can affect our self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, the studies that are done on this, in that negative self-talk is far more detrimental to us than positive self-talk is positive and helpful to us.
Yeah.
We are shooting ourselves in the foot when we have a negative inner voice telling us things that are not positive. So making an effort, having a good hygiene, a mental hygiene of you know what, I shouldn't call myself an idiot. Even in my mind, I just said that. I shouldn't think that way. I'm not an idiot. I've had a tough day today. I'm hungry and I'm tired. I just got to get control of this. I apologize to my wife or whatever, and then move on and seek forgiveness or whatever it might be. But I am not an idiot.
I am guilty of doing that big time. You've caught me on that several times.
I'm bad too, man.
And I know in my mind, I don't do it in a realm of talking bad about myself. It's more of trying to be humble. Like, I don't want to be this proud, cocky guy walking around thinking I'm just the man, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really, and I'm guessing that's probably the same as you, is that a lot of people do it in a realm of trying to remain humble. Well, you can remain humble without degrading yourself and calling yourself an idiot and calling yourself stupid, right? And so that's definitely something that I'm trying to currently work on, is like, you can still be humble without the negative self-talk.
Yep.
And that is very important.
And I think what we put into our mind is a big part of that. Garbage in, garbage out. You eat garbage, you're going to feel like garbage.
You watch garbage, you're going to, exactly.
Yeah, you hear it, you say it, you're going to think it.
Yep.
So I think all of these things is so complicated, this intake portion, but it is an important thing, one of the pillars of wellness.
Yep, for sure. Probably the biggest one that, like you said at the beginning, a lot of people look at the most is what am I eating, or what am I putting into my body? Yeah. It's a huge thing.
Comment, ask questions. We can address things.
Yeah.
This is a great conversation to have, Matt.
Absolutely. It's an important topic.
Huge, very important.
See you on the next one.
Be safe out there.
Thank you for listening to EMS, the Erik and Matt Show.